Great. Welcome all those that are on by virtual. And we'll get the meeting started of March 22nd, our public board meeting. I'll call the meeting to order at 9 o'clock. I can't remember if we had anybody doing a land acknowledgement. If not, I'm going to do it. One of the things, maybe before we start, Jonathan, you can talk about our standard one that we've put on the site, please, and I'll read it. But
thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. If I could capture some of the work that was done, trustees gathered together, learned with Taryn Donald, our Indigenous education lead, a bit more about land acknowledgement, a bit more of our local homeland of the Métis and Treaty 6. And then in that spirit, all trustees worked together on their own reflections, and then there was a consensus or a synthesis built that tried to pull elements of insight from all trustees, and that is what you would have before you, Board Chair, and is on our website.
Thank you. Sturgeon Public Schools respectfully acknowledge that we teach, learn, and grow together on Treaty 6 territory and homeland of the Métis. We honor and respect the history, languages, ceremonies, and cultures of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, who have called this land home for countless generations. We recognize the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and Inuit for their care, love, and stewardship of this place. We are grateful for those who share their knowledge with us and help to foster a respectful relationship with all our relatives on this land. We are committed to understanding the harms done in the name of education and continuing to learn to honor the true spirit of Treaty 6 as a promise of friendship, collaboration, and peaceful alliance. Okay. Thank you. Consideration of the agenda, 3.1 additions to today's agenda. Shauna.
Shauna Warren, Superintendent. I would like to request that the board add under reports from Senior Executive, 7.8, Edwin Parr nomination. And then sadly, we would like to request that 6.1 is deleted, and that our Sturgeon Composite High School, the drumline, the video, we were notified this morning that they could not get the video loaded and ready, so it will be moved to a near future. We apologize for the late notice.
Okay, any other additions or deletions? Trish?
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. I was going through some old emails last evening and found the CSBA survey. Were we going to talk about that? The one that had to do with truth and reconciliation calls to action?
We can.
Is that something you would do?
I'm not sure. So, is that an in-camera? Okay, we can add it then and talk about that. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented? Oh, sorry, the agenda as presented. Irene, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Appointments, we have none. Reading and approving of minutes of February 22nd, 2023 of our regular meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Tasha, thank you. All those in favor? Thank you, and unanimous. Okay, and again, apologize for the drum line. They'll definitely, it would have been great to see that. It's one of the things I think is really cool for what we do. We'll go into reports from senior executives. 7.1 PSBAA, the advocate, board chair's message. Shauna.
Shauna Warren, Superintendent. This was emailed out, and if you remember, PSBA, the advocate, it's they have a monthly newsletter, and that the board's chair message, it's a 2-year schedule that they created. So we had been talking about this for a while, and then it came up, and so we had talked about, we thought it was important to talk about our successes with dual credit, etc. And so just some information, this was already shared with you, but we also think it's important to share the great news that is in this newsletter.
Great. Any questions? Thank you. 7.2 Stakeholder Engagement Plan Update. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Provided for your information is a snapshot or a capture of the different ways we have or are currently engaging stakeholders for feedback on how we as a division are doing. The key ones are the Alberta Education Assurance Survey. That goes to grade 4, grade 7, grade 10 students, their parents, all teachers. And then the Our School survey, which is something we choose to do as a division and goes to all grade 4 to 12 students. Then we had to make a mid-year change to a survey for parents, and that is out right now. We are looking for feedback from parents on similar dimensions that we did in the assurance survey, so that parents outside of 4, 7, and 10 can help us understand how we're growing across the assurance domains. And then we've added some more open-ended feedback questions on how we're doing, how we can improve, ideas we can be stronger partners with parents. We've also taken that to our staff. Part of our staff survey annually is also to ask staff, how are we doing with professional learning? How are schools being supported for their professional development days? And we have 2 division days where we come together, just 2 of the PD days. And on those days, we've also asked feedback. Are these sessions aligned? Are the keynote speakers meaningful for your practice and your support with students in schools? And we also ask, as part of the Alberta annual education results report, how we are doing to encourage and support and the growth of teachers and their understanding of foundational knowledge and their work in creating welcoming spaces in our classrooms and our schools for First Nation, Métis, and Inuit cultures. We have also specifically gone to our leadership, our principal group, and asked them mirroring questions that we've asked staff specifically. And that will all come together and be reported on in our annual education results report in November. But summaries of these, when they are, if they're closed in time, will still be presented to the board and shared through website with our public, our stakeholders, yet this year. May is the target for that. So there still will be feedback. It's very important, I think, when you ask someone, how we doing, that you let them know we've heard you and here are some of the themes. But I do want to remind the board that the more detail of all of this information does come out in the annual education results report. Administration is prepared to take questions.
Janine?
Janine Peckwin, Ward 1. So the surveys are anonymous, but there's still an email address attached to them. You have to put your email address in. Can you explain why that's a thing and how the anonymous, whatever that word is kept?
Thank you. Yes, it's an excellent question. The way it works is we want to have one survey completed per person. And so Google has a feature that says, yeah, we can do that. We can make sure only one person can do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to do that through asking for an email. We nowhere are presented with the email. So I can't even try to correlate or guess or anything like that. We do not see the email. But as a technology platform, Google has said, if you want your form to be one person, the one person will be by email. Now, if someone uses another email, I suppose they could do it more than once, but that's the point. So yes, it asks for that. No, we do not see it. I have no ability to see it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. 7.3, Administrative Procedure 722. Lisa.
722, administration is amending the contracts for newly designated principals and vice principals, and this change would just align with the Alberta Teacher Association collective agreement that was agreed to last year. Administration is prepared for any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Lisa. 7.4, Communications Report. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. presented for your information and reflection is the monthly communication report. In it, we have captured, and my apologies, I usually go off the agenda that's linked in here, and we'll have to fix the link because it doesn't go to the communication report. My apologies. I do have it here on my other device, and so we'll get that link fixed and share it with you. I love this report because I follow each link and I can see the images that we've captured about, standing up against bullying by honoring Pink Shirt Day, that we've highlighted our new Education for Reconciliation page that captures some of the work that we're doing and captures that land acknowledgement that you read today, Board Chair. I also appreciate how, we are clearly celebrating our expansion of French immersion to Sturgeon Composite High School. We can see some of the key people in our division here that are doing that work for us at a booth celebrating that. And I also appreciate that, oh, that's right, I've been approving or talking about open houses. We are out there, we are celebrating our schools and our programs. And I also like just the confirmation here where we've been in the media these times, and if you haven't caught it, please follow the links to see it. Also a reminder, always please check out our newsletter. I'm prepared to take questions.
Stacy.
Stacy Viva, Ward 5. Thank you. I love this report as well. I think that's great to see what's happening because sometimes we miss it. Just a note that in Morinville, and I don't know how far it gets mailed out, but we were also captured in the Free Press. And I took a picture of it, but it was a couple weeks ago, and then I ran out of space on my phone and deleted it. So I can't tell you what it was about, but I believe it was archery related in maybe one of our Bonaccord schools. But I'll have to go back and find it. But there is some that's print only that we're getting caught in there too. So I'll try to make sure I take better notes next time.
Irene.
Irene Gibbons, Ward 7. Mine isn't a question, it's a comment. I just want to say how much I love the traction that Sturgeon Public Schools is getting. And like I see it more in social media. I see it more in the papers or hear it on the radio. And I'm very happy that we're making that upward move for being seen.
Great. Yeah, and I'll just ditto that for all those involved. Good job, and let's keep it up. It's helping us yell from the roof. Oh, sorry, Tasha.
I also just wanted to pass on a kudos to Lauren Walter, because at parent council, or school council at Namao this week, the parents were all talking about the improved communication from the division. So I thought that should come out here too.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. 7.5 monthly financial report. Liliana.
Liliana LeVay, Associate Superintendent, Corporate Services. Included in your package is the monthly financial report for the month ended February. As you see, we have an overall deficit of $610,000 currently, and that's offset by new and budgeted grants that we received throughout the year, which are being spent slowly and depleted. Also, we have higher than budgeted interest revenue, which is also being allocated to priorities needed by the divisions, and also timing of certain revenues and expenses as they occur at different times throughout the year. So when excluding the temporary variances, we would have had a 1.3 million deficit as opposed to 1.2 million deficit for this time of the year. Just wanted to remind you that our approved deficit was 2.3 million. And then the minister offset that amount by the fuel contingency pricing, so that reduced our approved deficit by 2 million. And this amounts, this deficit also includes a certain portion of operating dollars that we put in capital investment. So together they form the approved amount. And it's limiting the access to unrestricted surplus as approved by the minister. Sorry, it's a bit wording, but it's a number of items that go into what the minister approves. So we have to bring in all the consideration when we close the year. We do have an opportunity to access funds from our PAF deferred, which have been deferred now for 3 years. And those amounts can be used in education instruction, basically. And also we can reduce our planned contribution to capital reserves, which was 2.5 million this year. So if we end up needing to reduce the overall access to unrestricted surplus, we can modify all those numbers to come up to what the minister approved. When looking at the detailed numbers under pre-K to 12, revenues are higher than budgeted by 805,000, mainly due to 80 salary settlement top-up of 264, student enrollment growth 138, and the timing of fee collection, which is higher than anticipated donations by 136,000. Those donations are mostly related to graduation and fundraising revenue of 44,000 and a number of smaller revenue sources. We did provide our superintendent with details on donations. I know the board is doing some work to acknowledge that. Expenses are higher than budgeted by 592,000, mainly due to accelerated timing of instruction expenses over the first 10 months of the year, ATA salary settlement of 138,000. Centralized instructional services, revenues are higher than budgeted by 488,000 due to the timing of First Nations funding for learning services and a portion of the interest revenue that was allocated to support technology updates. So if you remember, we have higher than anticipated interest revenue. So instead of us reporting it all under administration, we're trying to reinvest that amount into instruction. So we identify our priorities there. Expenses are higher due to learning services expenses taking place over the first 10 months of the year, but anticipated to track closer to budget by the end of the year. We do have some other expenses that we didn't budget, so, such as the loft boards. If you remember at year end in August, we had loft boards purchased in the amount of close to 800,000 that we were hoping to expense, but they ended up being capitalized, so now we had to amortize over the 5 years. Hence our surplus at year end was higher than anticipated by the same amount. So the amortization for this loft boards now affects the next 4 years. So in this current year, we will have 163,000 of amortization related to these loft boards. Under operations and maintenance, revenues includes additional unbudgeted funding for the legal public school, the lease payments that we get coverage from the government. And also we received 95,000 of ASB old insurance settlements, so as they unrestrict the remaining assets of that insurance, we do get, once in a while, we get some checks from them. Expenses are higher than budgeted by 879,000 due to 176,000 of invoices paid on behalf of the flood that took place at Sturgeon Camp. We do have a misalignment. We did receive the money from insurance. However, we are supposed to pay the invoices after we receive the money, after the insurance approves. So there was a crossing between the fiscal year ends. We also had snow clearing costs higher than anticipated by 156,000. Utility costs higher than normal due to the winter season being seasonally higher than the rest of the year. The timing of the insurance premium, so we pay all our insurance in one lump sum payment, which happens in November. And the loss of disposal of obsolete surveillance equipment, which is 255,000. So if you remember, we put this amount last month in the revenue section, and we now moved it under the expenses section. We thought it's more appropriate because it's a loss, not a gain. So now it's below the line. Transportation services revenue is higher than budgeted due to the fees collected at the beginning of the year. And we also received the fuel subsidy from the government. And the expenses are higher than budgeted, mainly due to fuel subsidy received, so it's a net zero effect. However, it's showing in both, it's affecting both sides. And also our costs are tracking over 10 months as opposed to 12. Most of our costs are tracking over 10 months. And that surplus is offset by the elimination of the 2 routes in August 2022, which weren't budgeted. So that it's affecting our bottom line. System administration revenue is higher than budgeted due to the additional interest earned. And expenses are tracking close to budget. External services, both revenues and expenses are lower than budgeted due to less secondments and less subs that are coded to this section. Under the non-budgeted additional grants, we are tracking against them. We're spending and anticipated to spend all of them before the year end, except where we are allowed to carry forward into the next year, like the mental health in school pilot project. Capital investment in February adds up to 272, and this will reduce the overall access to unrestricted surplus. Administration is open for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Lillian. 7.6 monthly IT report. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Provided for your information is our monthly update on how we're doing and a brief paragraph of some of the larger tasks that Technology Services is working on. One thing that they will be working on till the end of the year is a full inventory and understanding of iPad deployment in our schools. It's been some time since we have really clarified what devices we have and what is on those devices to support student learning. So that'll take some time to really get a handle on, and then going forward, it'll be in a clearer, more managed situation for all of our schools. I will apologize to the group. At this moment, we are not able to add the Xerox printers that are at Four Winds to our Konica Minolta tracking software. We're working on it, but at this point, as you see, the printing numbers reflect everyone but the school that has Xerox printers. I invite any questions.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Cindy?
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2. Just a question. We were at our Council of School Councils last night, and we were talking to our Camilla parents, and they were saying that they are not able to have virtual meetings because the internet is so terrible in that location. Can you explain what's going on and why they can't do that?
Rather than some of the limited information that I have, I'd rather take that under advisement, and I can bring back a better answer for yourself.
Actually, it's okay. I'll comment to that. The comment's not about the school itself. It's about the surrounding area where everybody lives. Our internet is very terrible out there. And anytime we try to do a Zoom or anything in there, a lot of people are just going in and out. It's more about the regional internet system amongst all the houses and that. So there is some internet being brought into River Kabar. Calahoo's getting some right now, but most of the rural people will be in the same spot. Okay. Any more questions on the IT report? Thank you. Just on that, Cindy, it's just there's actually fiber optics ran into Camilla and the Morinville Colony School. Yeah. Okay, 7.7, 22-23 Superintendent Discretionary Fund. Shauna.
Shauna Warren, Superintendent. I apologize. I did just get a note from somebody online saying that there is feedback happening. So I don't know, and I know we leave normally the chair's mic on all the time, but I don't know why there seems to be feedback. So I'm just saying it out loud so we remember. I'm not sure. We'll have to test it later. I apologize. So as is reported monthly, this is an update on the Superintendent Discretionary Fund budget. And so each month to date that has been previously reported is shared there as information. And the update provides from February 15th, 2023 to March 13th, 2023. And the following, or the listed staffing, FTE, and resources have been added to schools using this budget. So we had to do a salary cost adjustment, and that was all impacted salaries due to the AT settlement. So if you were to compare month over month of what was already reported, you would see a slight change in that because there was an increase to that. And so we had to update the salary amounts back to when the ATA settlement was approved. Okaparka teacher FTE, we did add a little bit of FTE there for some additional academic support. And that again was for addressing the learning loss. And Nemeo additional teacher FTE to support the learning coach and mental health and wellness coach role at the school. And so you will see that currently where the budget is sitting at, the dollars have been spent well. And just a reminder that we do have other areas. And so this was its intention. The intention was to spend this and to use it where needed. And so that is what we have done. And again, we are prepared to answer any questions.
Okay, we're good. Okay, thank you. $7.8 Edwin Parr. Shauna.
Shauna Warren, Superintendent, thank you. And again, just a reminder, it was sent out to the board, but as we do have an Edwin Parr nominee going forward from the division. And so it is Chelsea Critchley from Four Winds Public School. And just a reminder that that was step one. So divisions put forward a name, and that name now goes to Zone 2-3. And if she is successful to move on from there, then there's the next process, etc. And the final, there are 6 across the province. So we will keep you updated if we hear anything further. But I'm sure the board, it is nice to see Edwin Parr nominee on behalf of the division, and we are very proud of all of our beginning teachers. We have quite a few this year, so it's very exciting.
Any questions? No, I think that's really great that we present somebody to the Edwin Parr. So. Okay. 8, reports from trustees, standing committees, chairs report. A couple things, and we'll talk about it in camera, but Redwater Mayor's breakfast we've been all invited to. We'll talk about that in camera and who wants to attend. I did attend ASBA's presentation on the political climate of Alberta. It was, I think Stacy was on there too. It was quite interesting. Throughout it all, they basically predicted it's going to be a very close election. And the rest of it was basically just little tidbits about the process and some of their thoughts on where they see it going. But the interesting part for me on that one was how low education was on a priority for the politicians. It's very low priority. So I shouldn't say very low priority, but it's in the middle type thing. There's definitely some things that are 3 or 4 or 5 things up above education. So that was an interesting aspect to me. I also attended the minister's presentation on the furtherment of the new curriculum. There's some funding coming for that. I believe there is some form coming to our administration to fill out about what we'll need to make that happen. And it's French immersion or French as second language and language arts. Did I say that right? Is that the two coming out? Sorry, science. Sorry, you're right. Absolutely right. Science. I knew my head went blank there. Science. So one interesting thing to me is, and maybe it makes sense, in there they talked about that when this gets brought out, that it's been scrutinized. It's met through many different processes, and that of course anything can be looked at and changed for the right reason, but they're not accepting I believe what was said, it was not accepting anything until it gets into the system and gets working and those type of things. But there is some money set aside for the resources needed. It was $800 per teacher and $45 per student. Another interesting aspect, maybe Jonathan, you could comment on a little bit, but they talked about all the resources going to the 4 major boards in Alberta. And those resources would come through them to us, it sounded like. It was a little confusing to me. I wanted to ask the question, but they ran out of time. Have you heard anything like that? Jonathan?
I don't think I could comment specifically on that, but in the past, like I can relate to that. The larger boards, because of economies of scale, have teams that work on curriculum implementation and resource development. And so there has been times in the past where the provinces work with those boards, and then the boards provide without cost to smaller boards across the province. So that is how it has happened historically. I'm sorry, I cannot comment on specifically what was outlined in that meeting.
Yeah. And another question came out was about PATs for students next year that are just starting into these 2 curriculums and how that works. Wasn't a very solid answer to it, but there would be PATs and that would be included. So. Okay. The only other thing, I will let our trustees talk and then I'll finish off my trustee report because I keep taking everybody's whole list before everybody gets a chance. So I'll do it at the end. We'll start with Janine.
Janine Beckman, Ward 1. You caught me by surprise there. So we had a policy committee meeting March 1st, committee of the whole, everybody was at. I did a Orca Park school tour with the mayor of Redwater and the CEO. So it was nice to just walk around the school and talk about the town and the school and all that together. Zone 2-3, Orca Park School Council meeting. My Redwater school was canceled this month. I had a TIBA meeting. Last night we all did Council of School Councils. Today we're at the public board meeting and then protocols and remuneration meeting after this. And tomorrow I have an awards ceremony at Orca Park School.
Any questions? Tasha.
Tasha Otway-McClay, Ward 6. I think the only thing that I would like to identify as different for me is that Namao School Council last night was talking about cell phone policy and creating something for the school that all the teachers and like a one format, because right now every teacher has a different philosophy, different principles. So they were looking at talking about something for the school. So I thought that was interesting, and I took the opportunity to share board conversations pre-pandemic regarding cell phone policy. So it was a good conversation that could have gone on for days.
Great, thank you. Any questions on that? Irene?
Irene Gibbons, Ward 7. So I guess the only difference is on March 6th and 7th, I attended Alberta Rural Education Symposium. yeah, it was enlightening and nice to be in a room filled with people that are having the same rural struggles. Lanning Trail has their 40th anniversary committee meeting. I attended that, so their plans are underway for their 40th birthday party, which they are having on June 2nd. And we're trying to also now bring in the community. So I've reached out to the community, and they're going to come to our next committee meeting. March 16th, I attended the Redwater Chamber of Commerce board meeting. That was interesting. I don't think we don't want to be at their board meetings because they were talking about things that, I mean, it was okay to give feedback, but it's like their boundaries, which I said to them, it doesn't matter which Chamber of Commerce that any of our Sturgeon Public Schools are in, we try to become members of those groups. So anyway, I don't know when the next chamber is. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Any questions? Trish?
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. I submitted my trustee report so everyone can see that. A few comments I have are, I also attended the Sturgeon Composite Open House evening, and they did a really good showcase of our programs that we offer there. CTS, they had some musicians playing the guitar in the hallway, which was really nice. The gym was all set up with sports banners, and the coaches were there talking to the kids the students that were coming through. And Ms. Meadows took a photo of me and Cindy, me and Trustee Briggs. So that was a lot of fun. It was a great evening and great school. Sturgeon Comp did not have a school council this month. Sturgeon Heights did. I was at that earlier this week, and Mr. Chute had invited Ms. Walter, Lauren, to come in and speak to the parents about, to give a presentation on how to help promote our school in the community. As you know, in St. Albert, there is a lot of choice and a lot of different boards to choose from, and it was a very good presentation as always, and the parents enjoyed it. And I guess a couple of the big things that came out of it was that if parents can write Google reviews, that's one way that new parents coming into a community look for comments. And another huge one is word of mouth. So if a friend says, you know, I'm not really happy with my school, and one of our parents can say, oh, well, you should check our schools out. They're fantastic. So it was really good and eye-opening, and it gave our parents a lot to think of. So I really thank Ms. Walter for coming in and doing that. Also at the Sturgeon Heights, the big talk of the evening was, I think you're all aware of the email that went out. There was a hold and secure on Wednesday. So the parents shared their comments about the incident. Overall, they were very pleased with how it was handled and the outcomes that happened. There were a few comments they didn't like in the email, the words "do not contact the school," and I can understand that. I know if I had read that with my kid in there, I would have driven in and stormed the office right that minute. So, but I think we've learned a bit about this. They would have had to have liked an update also. They were given an update at 8:30 in the morning, and then nothing again until about 2:30. So we think it would be wise now to give them something that, you know, everything's fine in between that. And I think the biggest issue was there is confusion between what a hold and secure is and what a lockdown is. So the parents' minds just immediately went to the worst case scenario when this was not the case at all in this situation. I think we were able to assure them that our staff is quite knowledgeable in all the procedures and things that are in place, and their children were safe. So that was a good thing. One thing that came up, they would like to see some ability to receive texts when there's emergencies at school, because some of them don't have access to their emails when they're at work and that sort of thing. So don't know if that's something we can work on or not. An interesting thing that the parents did, so the staff had Danielle read in for PD, and then the parents brought her in to speak to the parents, and I think they said they had over 30 parents come into the presentation, and it was on values and compassion, so it's a little bit different than some of the ones that have been going on with internet security, but they got great feedback on it. Parents that missed it are asking for another session. So, and they're all, the school is also planning an internet safety session. So, and one thing I found interesting from the previous meeting, the principal had picked up an energy drink at one point and was looking at the ingredients, and his eyes just about popped out of his head. So he was considering if the possibility, and he wanted parental feedback on perhaps banning energy drinks from the school. So I don't know if any of our schools have anything like that. But if you hear of it, let me know. And really enjoyed the Council of School Councils last evening, and that's it for me.
Thank you. Any questions? Stacy?
Stacy Vigo, Ward 5. I've submitted my report, so you can read all of the things that are going on. Just a note from last month, I did not end up attending the Legal Chamber meeting, so if you can strike that from the record, I ended up sick. Luckily, Cindy was able to attend and had a partner that night. Hopefully she'll tell us about it in her report. I did attend the SPVA and Learning Center School Council. The principal there is really excited about her new position and moving into Redwater, and actually commented that she's feeling really supported by the division, and that move is going to be really positive. So that was great to hear that, you know, there wasn't a lot of anxiety around it. Everybody was really supportive and excited about that move. She also mentioned that at the division PD session from Lauren Walter was amazing, and she said it was really valuable to hear what our division is doing for communication and how our schools can, you know, create a cohesive communication plan. So that was really great. I attended the Four Winds Supreme Court of the grade 5 class, which was very exciting. They were discussing the merits of the Canadian Shield, and it was really neat idea to get grade 5s involved in the process. So they each had a different element of the Canadian Shield. So one was resources, one was the natural beauty, and they all had to say why that's the best part of the Canadian Shield. And there was a panel of 9 of us on the Supreme Court who got to judge, and I thought that was really nice to see our kids in action and where that knowledge is being. They had to create their own slideshows. They had to work together to do the presentation. And some kids really did not feel comfortable speaking in front of 9 of us, because that's quite intimidating. And their peers stepped up and made sure, and the teacher made sure that, you know, he'd pop in some funny comments and make sure everybody felt comfortable with the process. So I was really impressed to see that type of learning going on in grade 5 especially, because that's a big transition for those kids in our schools in Morinville at least. I also was invited to the Jessica Martel Memorial Foundation International Women's Day celebration with the work that we've been doing in collaboration with them with the pilot program at Four Winds. They're doing amazing things, and I kind of got a rundown of how it's working in our school, and it sounds amazing. The kids who are joining the program with Jesse's House are thriving, and they're showing up at school at least on those days to make sure that they're being well taken care of. All of, like, their entire person is being taken care of, and it's involving their families, and sounds like an amazing program. So I was really honored to join them for that luncheon. The Morinville Chamber of Commerce, I attended that as well. They had a presentation from Business Link about the Canada Digital Adoption Program. It's a federal grant program that assists small and medium businesses with microgrants of up to $2,400 to move them into a digital space, which I thought is really interesting that they're funded for the next 2 years, so up until 2025, I believe you said. And just as an education standpoint, our kids that are graduating, there's a big push to make sure that all businesses have online presence. And that's at a federal level, that they're pushing to make sure that there's access to, e-commerce opportunities and online marketing and all of that kind of stuff. So just something to keep in mind, that there is a push from a lot of levels to go digital. And so our students will definitely need those skills moving forward. So I thought that was interesting. And then, yeah, that ASBA election advocacy meeting was interesting with Janet Brown and Paul McLaughlin. They always have some good insights of the hows and the whys. And yeah, that education is kind of being bumped because there's so much going on right now and so many different topics that people don't really know where to focus. So it's really important that trustees are the ones that keep pushing the message that education remains important, and make sure that our stakeholders are also keeping that top of mind. So that's all.
Thank you. Any questions? Cindy?
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2. I have submitted my report, and it's very similar to everyone else's, being the last one. Yes, I did attend the Legal Chamber of Commerce, and I want to say how welcoming the community was to having us in our community, so I'd like to thank them for that. They did talk about their new arena coming into their town, which is very exciting for them. I also did attend the open house at Sturgeon Composite, and they did a stellar job. And it was so nice to see so many parents and students in the hallways. As well as last night, I attended Lillian Schick and Bon Accord Community School parent-teacher interviews, and it's so nice to see parents and students back in our hallways in the evening.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, just one thing as Camilla School Council had a PD and had a lady come out from ASCA and talk about the role of school councils, which was really good. Reflected a lot of it back to what's in the Education Act. One thing she talked about there that I think is very interesting is that the need to talk about more about, like, it just seems like all the school councils, even though the financial end is separated, everything's about fundraising and getting more involved in how we help parents and attach to the schools and stuff like that, and what's happening in the schools. So, and then I noticed last night fundraising was a big part of it again. So, so we need to work on that in the future. And the rest, I think everybody talked about. It was interesting for our, I was sitting with the chair and the vice chair from Camilla School Council, and they actually had a school council meeting last night while we were at that, and had somebody look after it, and she got a text that they canceled the next meeting in April. So she thought that was very interesting that the chair and vice chair were sitting there and they canceled the meeting for April. That was their, so something came up, I'm not sure. But anyways, that's all I have to add. Any questions to me, anything? Okay, thank you. Advocacy Committee.
Stacey Buga, Ward 5. Advocacy met on February 22nd. We reviewed the work plan. We discussed some of the awards and started the discussion about a staff recognition event, that this is a board initiative. So we do want to be part of that planning and make sure that, you know, it is us trying to recognize our staff, not just our administration. So I'm happy to be part of that conversation. We discussed some of the topics for Student Advisory Committee, which met on February 27th, as well as the Council of School Council topics, which we met last night. So lots of quick work being done through advocacy and turnover, which means that things are happening, which is good to see that we're not meeting for no reason at all. Because sometimes you get a lot of committees and you want to make sure that you're seeing results out of what's happening in those meetings. So that's positive. And then some discussion about the provincial election kind of campaign tips, what our messaging is, and making sure that we have a real Sturgeon message going out to our stakeholders, as well as planning to meet with the candidates in the future. Student Advisory Committee, like I said, was held February 27th. It was held virtually, and I think it was done very well. It's difficult sometimes to make sure that everybody's engaged in that type of format, but it was really positive, and I'm excited to see what they bring back to us. We're hoping to meet again in May in person, and we've tasked as Jonathan had alluded to in the stakeholder engagement, what we've asked of our Student Advisory Committee representatives is to go back to their schools and really dig into some of those questions and bring that back in May as well. So I'm excited to see how they do with that. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Irene?
It's not actually a question, it's more of a comment. I noticed on my way out of Gibbons last night, MLA Dale Nally is having an open house on April 3rd. In Gibbons.
I think you'll see a lot of those things in the very near future. Okay, thank you. 8.4, Audit, Finance, and Human Resources Committee. Trish.
Trish Morielli at Ward 4. We held a meeting on February 22nd, and the things we discussed were the 2024-25 school year calendar, and there were some amendments, and I think we talked about all that at the Committee of the Whole on March the 8th. The General Employment Conditions Review was presented and reviewed, which again was discussed at our Committee of the Whole. Key budget drivers were presented in draft, and we will be looking at those a little closer as we get up to budget time, budget approval. And we discussed the Audit Committee membership, which we did not have anyone on that at the time, but it sounds like since that last meeting, we have secured 2 members, and it's up to Ms. Levikant if she's comfortable or not, if she wants to discuss that now or give us an update.
Liliana?
Yes, we did receive a number of applicants after we've sent out messages through Power School Messenger. And we've selected 2 members that have a lot of experience. One member has an audit certification, so it's quite appropriate. And the other one is a partner in an accounting firm. And I will send out the names and the contact information to the committee chair and copy everybody else for your information. You're welcome to welcome them. And we don't have a specific timeline for them, how to get them involved at this moment, but we anticipate that we'll get them included in our processes towards the end of our year end.
And I'd like to thank Liliana for her work in that regard.
Thank you. Anything else, Trish?
No.
Okay, thank you. Building and Maintenance Committee.
We had a meeting on February 22nd, and a few of our highlighted points were discussion of gender-neutral washroom design and the cleaning requirements and all the issues and problems that is creating in our division. Liliana did talk about contracted services for snow removal, and hopefully we won't be talking about snow removal moving forward. Hopefully spring is on its way. And we did touch briefly on the value scoping document that was provided to us at that meeting. And we are meeting today after our board meeting.
Any questions? Thank you. Policy Committee, 8.6.
Janine Pequin, Ward 1. So we had a online meeting on March 1st. We discussed a couple policies, a couple of which are coming up today later in the agenda, and some of them are being forwarded to the next policy meeting just so we can get more feedback and flesh them out before they come to the public board meeting. Our next meeting is April 6th, and I feel like that's via online again. So, because we're having trouble scheduling on Wednesday, so we're doing them online so anybody can attend, and they're super fun.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Transportation Committee's meeting this afternoon, nothing to report from our last presentation. We did have our meeting with all the contractors and went through the new contract, and we'll be talking about that this afternoon if there's any feedback from that. So that's all I have to present right now. Okay, any questions? Okay, reports from special committees and task groups. 9.1, Alberta School Board Association representative.
Janine Pequin, Ward 1. Rick Grebenstein, who was supposed to be at the March meeting, was once again not there. He is rescheduled for May 1st, which is a Monday, I believe. And it's only virtual. He's coming in virtually. He won't be there in person. We talked a lot about position statements and what's going to be coming forward. So I think we vote on those in May as well to take forward to the fall general meeting. Zone 2-3 has really taken on this generative discussion where we talk about best practices in school divisions. And it's almost the best PD I've ever attended because they bring up a topic that all school boards kind of do. And then they just talk about what they do, with the different boards about what they do. And it is so valuable to me to just see what other people are doing. And like, we had one about Council of School Councils, and Elk Island Public does theirs once a month. But it's organized by the school councils themselves, and they invite trustees in. It's not it is just really good PD and best practices on what other people do. So me and Stacy furiously write notes and we're like, oh, we should try this, or we should. So there's going to be a discussion on student advisory committees that's coming up that I will be singing Sturgeon's praises for. And it's just a very nice sharing opportunity. And their meetings are all hybrid. We're paid to go. So if anybody feels like attending, when you get the schedules out, lots of things are time sensitive, and feel free to just jump on while you're at work and listen in the background. There's some really, really good discussions with Zone 2-3.
Good, thank you. Stacy.
Just to add to that, there's a couple of things that I wanted to just note out loud because I thought it was interesting. That King's University is now offering the LQS programming for principals. So there's more opportunity to get leadership into schools. And there was also a note from our U of A rep from Zone 2-3 that they're wanting to increase the number of graduates, but we're looking at current trends that a lot of teachers are now preferring to be supply teachers, and often first-year teachers are leaving partway through their first year. And I thought that was interesting, and maybe, I don't know if we've been seeing that same trend in our division, but that's concerning that teachers don't want to be full-time, and how do we make sure that our teachers are being supportive because we need them. And then also a note that we talked a little bit about traffic safety, and it may not be relevant anymore, but one of the divisions had put out a publicity thing called Explore Your 2.4, which I thought was kind of a clever way to get the community out and walking that 2.4 kilometers and understanding it. And so they partnered with a bike shop, their local active living groups, and had prizes for kids who walk or ride to school. They get entered in a draw every time they ride their bike to school safely and that kind of thing. And the students made videos of the problem areas of like parking and crossing to get to their streets. So the students made videos and put them out. And so they were really engaged in like making sure their parents are parking safely, because some of this is not necessarily transportation, it's traffic flow and traffic safety. And so having kids calling out parents is an effective tool to get people all paying attention. So I just wanted to share that because I thought that was kind of a clever thing.
Just on that transportation thing, well, it's probably a good time to say it, but one thing that working with Fortis and that, we always kind of knew some of the things that were kind of coming up because they were have to go out and look at the situation and see how we'd have to change our. But one of the things that my son's been out looking at is a roundabout on 97th and or Highway 28 and 37 and at 44 and 37. So it looks like something may be happening. May be happening. Okay, 9.2, Public School Board Association of Alberta. Trish.
Nothing new to report there at this time, except as you all saw, the latest edition of the Advocate had the our chair message in it, so good job, guys. We have a new member. The Peace River School Division has joined, so that's great to see that more and more divisions are seeing the value and hopping in with us to make us a stronger organization. I don't know if anyone noticed, but there's a notice of an upcoming event from PSBAA. Is the they'll be running virtually the movie Backpack Full of Cash. I don't know if anyone's seen that. I can't remember if I've seen it or not. But that will be taking place either April 20th at 7 o'clock or April 21st at 2. They're offering it both times. So I don't know if anyone wants to book the boardroom and do a group watch, or if so, maybe get hold of me and we'll try to coordinate something. I'm not sure if it's, otherwise you can hop on it at home. It's a really, it explores the effects of privatization in the US, but I think because we're starting to see that sort of model make its way more and more in Alberta, it might give us some insight. So. And upcoming events, April 13th and 14th is our next PSBC, which we have some great PD there, some Aboriginal Indigenous session, Brian Callahan again about superintendent performance, recruitment of teacher and staff, teacher and professional staff, and of course Janet Brown again, so that'll be interesting. And then in June 1st to 4th is the spring general meeting in Calgary. And the summer event this year is taking place in Medicine Hat, and that is August 9th to 11th. And it's kind of fun to go and see how some of the different divisions do things. And they usually provide a little local tour and that sort of thing. So anyone have any questions on?
Any questions? No, thank you. You want to take a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
We'll take a 5-minute break before we start new business, please. Good? Thank you. And just want to know, Seth, welcome Chase. You just got on there. We're going to have you talk at our community members portion of our comment and question period. New business 10.1, 24-25 school year calendar. Lisa.
Lisa Lacroix, Associate Superintendent of Human Resources. The calendar was reviewed by the staff and parents and the Teacher Board Advisory Committee. There was just a small amount of feedback. No other feedback was received. So this is recommended for your approval and a motion is required.
Okay, any questions? Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Just confirming for the end of June, is there sometimes diploma exams on the 30th? Or would they, I don't know.
I'll
Lisa?
defer to Jonathan, I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Sorry, I can pull up the public schedule. We consult that. We have had challenges when they have moved it, but they do publish a 5-year schedule, and I'll confirm and can get back to you on that.
Thank you. Janine?
Janine Peckman, Ward 1, not a question, just I hate starting in August.
Okay. Anybody else? Could I have a motion to accept this calendar? Trish?
Trish Maria here, Ward 4. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the 2024-2025 school year calendar as presented at the March 22, 2023 public board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. 10.2, general employee condition increase to salary. Lisa.
Lisa Lacroix, Associate Superintendent of Human Resources. Just some background information that the last increase for the general employee condition employee salary grid was on September 1st of 2015. At the February 22nd, the Audit and Finance and Human Resources Committee meeting discussed an increase of 1.25 effective June the 1st for the general employee condition. Alberta and Teachers Association employees received an increase of 0.5 effective June 10th, 2022, and an increase of 1.25 effective September 1st, with an additional 2% effective September 1st, 2023. A approval and motion is required.
Okay. Questions? Trish?
I'm just a bit confused because I think I heard that this would include trustees, and I wonder if we want to exclude trustees from this at this time. Is there any comments on that?
Liliana?
I just want to mention that the inclusion is in the policy, so I am not sure how we can exclude it.
Tasha?
I wanted, Tasha Oatley McClay, Ward 6. I wonder, Lisa, if you could comment on, I guess, more of the optics of the proposal. Is a 1.25% increase for GEC. And since you've included the ATA's increases, is that going to cause animosity, or is it an acceptable amount?
Lisa?
I'm sorry, I can't comment on how the employees are individually going to feel about it. I do feel like it is in alignment with what CUPE had received, or sorry, ATA had received. So I do feel that it would be very much appreciated by the employees.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Any other comments or questions? Janine?
Janine Peckman, Ward 1. Since you brought up CUPE, is there going to be, and I don't know if we can talk about it, the consequence of this with that group?
Lisa?
We are currently in negotiations with CUPE, so I can't speak to what the consequence will be.
Anything else? If not, can I have a motion? Tasha?
Natasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. I move that the Board of Trustees approve an increase to the general employee condition salary grids of 1.25% effective June 1st, 2023, as presented at the March 22nd, 2023 public board meeting.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Shauna?
Shauna Warren, Superintendent, if I could just go back to the 24-25 school year calendar and thank Mr. Conrad. This is why we love Google and getting online quickly to search. So we can confirm that there is no diploma exam scheduled for June 30th, 2025. So there's no diploma scheduled for June 30th, 2025.
Thank you. 10.3, three-year capital plan, 23 to 25. Liliana?
Liliana LeVacant, Associate Superintendent, Corporate Services. Included in your package is the 3-year capital plan. That report is required to go to the government on April 1st. So we do require a motion for the approval of this plan. The priorities for this year updates are in terms of new construction, modernization, and preservation. We have Gibbon School Solution as our #1 priority, École Morinville Public Solution as our 2nd priority, and Sturgeon Heights School Modernization as the 3rd priority. In the future years, we need to look at Redwater replacement, Landing Trail modernization, and Bonaccord School replacement. For modular additions, I would like to mention that the modular announcements from the government have not come out yet, but we're expecting to hear from the government this week, we were told. We remain focused on our #1 priority, which is the addition of 2 modulars at Nemeo, the demolishing of the 2 modulars at Redwater, demolish and relocate 2 modulars at Landing Trail this year, and then next year evergreening of 2 modular classrooms. And Four Winds Public School next year addition of 2 modulars. The extended version of our capital plan is included for your information and review and approval. I would like to mention that since last time we reviewed this plan, we've enhanced the section on the Landing Trail as it's part of the Gibbon solution, and we've added more data as related to that school. Administration is prepared to answer any questions that you might have.
Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. In recent government announcements, they had it sounded like they were changing the process to include planning, pre-planning, and building, or whatever they're calling. Does that affect how we request our plan? Does that change any of the steps?
Liliana?
That is correct, Trustee Biga. There are 4 phases: the pre-planning, planning, design, and construction. So those are the 4 phases. We don't determine in which phase we qualify. We present our information to the government, and then they decide where we are. So this information became formal this year. However, it has been implemented retroactively effective school year 22-23. So we are technically in the pre-planning for the Gibbon solution. We are expecting to receive a letter from the government that approved our value scoping exercise and funding as related to that, and clarification on the steps. We're not required to go through all 4 phases. We can if we are ready and approved, we can go from pre-planning to design or pre-planning to construction, depending on how fast and how the government is viewing our application.
Thank you, Liliana. Any other questions? Janine?
In regards to the Redwater School modulars that have been decommissioned, I've been getting some community questions about, like, so they're full of mold and they're whatever. Does the maintenance crew check to make sure that that's sustained, like contained, or if it's spreading to the schools? Because well, if there's mold in there, how do we know it's not going through the ceiling tiles to the rest? So there's just been a lot of questions about why these are locked and if they're perhaps contaminating the rest of the school.
Liliana?
The two modulars at Redwater are contained and they are checked on a regular basis by our operations and maintenance. And all the utilities are disconnected from there. I know we had some issues with the fire alarms and we've dealt with that. But everything is contained and we hope that we get approval from the government to decommission those entirely.
Thank you. Trish?
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4, and I have brought this up before, but again, my biggest concern to do with our top priority of Gibbons School is the projected growth to that area of up to 10,000 residents in the next 10 years, when currently I believe it's about 3,000. So I know there is a big gap between planning and actually constructing, so I'm sure that will give us enough time to try to confirm that there will be that sort of growth, because we would certainly want to plan the right size school for the communities.
Liliana?
We are planning to bring to the attention of the government any demographic projections that we get from the town of Gibbons. This is what we were informed. We don't have any specific details. We have asked for the demographics, including the age and the community development and zoning that's upcoming. So as soon as the information comes forward from the town, then we will share it with the entire board and then share it with the government as well.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no more questions, I need a motion to accept. Irene?
Irene Gibbons, Ward 7. I motion that the Board of Trustees approve the 3-year capital plan as presented at the March 22nd, 2023 public board meeting.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you, everybody. 10.4, Policy 810, Offsite Activities. Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Administration is seeking board approval through motion for the amendments presented on Policy 810. Policy 810, Offsite Activities, has been reviewed by Policy Committee. There have been some changes made that are focused around including learning activities as part of the Superintendent or Designate review. Administration is prepared for any questions.
Any questions? Can I have someone motion that, please? Tasha?
Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. I move that the Board of Trustees approve Policy 810, Off-Site Activities, as presented at the March 22, 2023 public board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous? 10.5, Policy 900, Student Conduct and Discipline. Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Administration is seeking board approval through motion on amendments to Policy 900. Policy 900, Student Conduct and Discipline, is reviewed by the board each year. In this annual review, the board considered, the Policy Committee considered adding a clause that related to personal communication devices. Very timely to some feedback that we just heard about a school council. The amendment under 351, 352 is to demonstrate a belief statement about the appropriate use of technology, and then to be clear, should this be approved, that every school would have an articulated personal communication device policy as a school-wide policy, and that would be communicated to students during the code of conduct review that happens every year. Administration is prepared to take any questions.
Any questions? Stacy?
Stacy Buga, Ward 5. Just to confirm, I know this policy had gone through policy committee a couple of times. And I apologize, I think I missed one of the meetings in between, but this did go past our admin council or our principals as well because I know that we didn't want to make anything too prescriptive.
Jonathan?
Thank you for asking the question. Yes, after policy committee had made some changes and some suggestions, policy directed admin to go to our school council, which has our principals. Principals reviewed the suggested changes and made some suggestions back to policy committee, who considered it, and the final edition then has that feedback captured.
Thank you. Any other questions? Can I have some motion? Janine?
Janine Peckman, Ward 1. I move that the Board of Trustees approve Policy 900, Student Conduct and Discipline as presented at the March 22nd, 2023 Public Board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. 11, unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Any notice of motion? Any information? Comment and question period. 14.1 ATA. Anybody from ATA? Anybody from QP? Okay, thank you. 14.2 community members. Chase.
Hello,
Welcome.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you for having me. Just to report on from our last Student Advocacy Committee meeting as the co-chair and student representative. It was a lovely meeting again. I loved seeing all the people, even if it was virtual. It's a great way to collaborate and get to work with one another again. Feedback from that one. Once again, there was just a lot of students voicing their opinions on they would like school interaction, whether it be, we've already really hammered home the sports side of things. Especially in our junior high, kids love our all-star competitions where they get to meet kids from across the division and activities like that. But we're still noticing that there's a disconnect in regard to perhaps student councils could be doing a little more collaborating or working with one another on certain activities. There are things that may be extracurricular or apart from or that are more focused on academics or other than sport that we could be placing a little more emphasis on. So from our last meeting and just working with Mr. Conrad and other members, we are going to be trying to see if we can go more in a direction of some more school collaboration. Unfortunately, this is my last year, so I will be working with everyone to do what we can for the next couple months here, but hopefully this is a thing that in years in advance we can see some more school interaction, especially for our outer border region schools, maybe doing a little bit more with our centralized schools. From a Redwater representative standpoint and personal note, we had the Sturgeon Composite High School visit Redwater just yesterday. We collaborated with their band program. Feedback from that was absolutely incredible. From a band student myself, we have two schools that have larger band programs for being rural, but still quite small as far as an arrangement of instruments goes. Coming together created pretty much the closest thing you could get to a full wind ensemble. And it was incredible. We had Mr. Ohlek from Redwater School was conducting, as well as Mr. Swenson from Sturgeon Public. And it was incredible. Student feedback was awesome. It was great to meet students from the comp. I hope the comp kids also had some feedback pertaining to that. it was a wonderful way to, it was just one of those examples of how far along collaborating with other schools can go. And I think it's a great example of if we continue to do more of this in the future, we can get positive feedback like that from. So yes, that's just from a personal standpoint and representative of Redwater School. There was a lot of positive things that came out of collaborating with a school just from that standpoint. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chase. Any questions for Chase? Well, we're going to fail you on purpose this year so you can come back next year. Huh? How do you like that?
Thank you. I appreciate it. But I'm going to be looking forward to U of A next year.
Thanks for everything you do, Chase. And we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Anything for media? Any media? Okay. Any requests for information? Okay, I'm going to motion that we go in camera, or someone can motion that we can go in camera, please. Tasha.
I move that the board go into closed session.
Okay, thanks for all those that have attended on virtual, and all those in favor? Unanimous? We're going to move into in camera, so thank you, everybody.